Rutherford. I've got just a couple of minutes after 6. Appreciate you hanging tough with me for a moment before we got started. But tonight's going to be awesome. I've got a great friend of mine, Rob DeBoer, is on the line. Him and I are going to kind of ping back and forth and share the story of the EM Squared project with you. A little bit of our outcome is to give you just introduce you to the conversation about our mission, which is to go out and end malnutrition in children across the world, and we're going to use the Hope Bar. You see the screen, it says buy one, feed two. That's our game plan, to use the Hope Bar, help you understand what our business model looks like. If you're familiar with Tom's Shoes, you'll be familiar with what we're going to do. When you buy a bar, we're going to give you a bar and then send an additional bar to a child somewhere in the world. It's that simple. And it's our opinion, it's our belief that we can go out and square the efforts of the people listening in, which just means the same way Tom's Shoes story spread. People bought shoes, they told their friends, they went and bought some more, and they've put 10 million shoes on kids. So you'll hear more about that in a little bit. But tonight's to give you, I guess, an introduction into what we're doing. Some of you that are listening in over the last handful of days or week or two have gotten a little bit of an introduction. But tonight we want to share some images and some stories of our experience in Mexico feeding children with our Hope Bar just 2 weeks ago. Rob's going to talk to you about if he were you, what he would do to get started with us as far as sharing the story of EM Squared. And then also we're going to dive into a little bit of the rewards. Certainly will not be a deep dive and a detailed sort of confusing conversation. We just want to keep things on the surface, but we definitely want to give you more information than you have right now. So have a blast, take some notes. If you have any questions at all, hit them into the chat tab, and we will be able to go back and forth with you as we go. Just be patient with me if there's anything that we cover too fast. Don't get into enough detail on. Just relax. We're not selling or pitching. There's nothing to join. This is strictly an intro into what we've got cooking. So, again, my name's Michael. Rob's going to be calling from South Carolina. You'll hear from him in just a moment. So our whole purpose, everything that we're doing is built around ending malnutrition in the world. For those of you that are maybe seeing this for the very first time, you're familiar with the Sarah McLachlan commercials you see on television all the time. So it's nothing we're going to cover tonight is going to be news to you as far as the rate at which kids are dying annually because they just don't have any nourishment. It might not be new to you, but the way that we're going to approach it is definitely going to be new, because the mission of what we're doing is to connect and educate and empower people like you and I, worldwide passionate people, and really introduce them to a business model or a platform or a strategy that's called social entrepreneurship, which Tom's Shoes perfected. I mean, they've done an unbelievable job. There's hundreds and hundreds of other companies out there that you may have heard of, like Kiva or the Grameen Bank or a water company called Nika. There's a lot of companies out there that have implemented social entrepreneurship strategies, but you're going to be blown away by how we're going to do it, because we're going to put people inside of the equation. The strategy for EM Squared to go out and end malnutrition is simple. We call it buy one, feed two. Tom's called it one for one. But on our Hope Bars, which you could, just like any bar you've ever eaten in your life, I mean, I'll just tell you my experience with the bars. It's the consistency and the shape and size of a Cliff Bar, but my wife said it tastes like a fruit roll-up and a Fig Newton. Rob, when you chat, tell me what you thought of the taste and stuff too. But it's an unbelievably nutritious bar that tastes awesome, and our whole goal is to match 6 million consumers around the world that are going to consume bars just like they already do, and then we're going to match them with 6 million kids who are dying of malnutrition. They flat out don't have enough nutritious food to eat. So on the front end, can we find customers and consumers? We call them conscious consumers, or there's a lot of language that you can use to explain us. But essentially, we're going to connect purchasers with recipients. We're going to connect people who want to purchase a bar to consume themselves for their family. And just off of that purchase, we're going to trigger a match to a child somewhere in need in the world. We'll dive into more of it as we go. But the entire model is done off of what we call a Hope Bar box, or a box of Hope Bars. Every box comes with 30 bars. I know people are thinking, what's the price of a bar? $2.50, which makes a box $75. So for every box that you buy, we match an additional box to a child somewhere in the world in need. You can see on the right side of the screen, we've partnered on the distribution side of this with a few different firms, one of which is called Centro Fox, one of which is called Manna Relief. And there's so many backstories that we could dive into, so I'm going to do my best to limit them, but to give you what I think is going to help you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and who we're doing it with. but I don't want to take an hour to do it. We want to try to be on and off in 30 minutes. But if you look at the screen, again, back to the left, for every box of bars you purchase, one box is 30-day supply. Essentially, the purpose is to feed kids. And it's not one bar every few days. It's a bar a day for a kid. We've built the bars on the guidelines that UNICEF has established, which is our bar will bring the nutrients, both vitamins, minerals, and proteins, 100% of the daily value for a 10-year-old or under. So if a box is shipped to a child under the age of 10 through our program, he eats a bar a day. It's the goal that he's going to get some additional food, but if this is all that he had, he would get the nutrients that he needs. And again, when I cover the stats in a minute of how many kids in the world don't have that, you have the ability to be a kid's hero by being nothing more than a consumer. Buy a box of bars for your family, 30 bars in a box, feeds a kid a meal a day for a month. So our whole goal is to establish a community of people that say, you know what, I want to raise my hand and be a hero. I want to be able to contribute. Back to the right side of the screen, you'll see, and we talk about this tonight, you'll see some images as well. Centro Fox is, I called it the Fox Center until I visited Mexico, and then it's called Centro Fox when you're in Mexico. But we've partnered with, and this whole project was created by a guy named President Vicente Fox and his wife Marta. And again, I'm going to try to keep I'm going to give you the Cliff's Notes version, but we'll do additional webinars where you can hear a 20-minute story of how this whole thing started. But essentially, the President Vicente Fox and his wife Marta were presidents of Mexico from 2000 to 2006. They've been in the business of feeding children in the most rural slum areas of Mexico their entire life. So a handful of years ago, they got a chance to meet our founder and CEO. The guy's name is Sam Castor. You'll hear a little bit more about him in just a minute. But they got a chance to get together and talk about malnutrition. They got a chance to get together and talk about what it means to feed kids. So Centro Fox, again, as you see on the right side of the screen, is the foundation that Vicente Fox and his wife Marta run. Right below it, you see Manna Relief. Manna Relief is a Christian charity that's existed for about 15 years. The gentleman's name that runs that, built it, owns it with his wife is Sam Castor. So Sam had been feeding kids, again, for, I guess, about 10 years or so at the time when he met President Fox. He said, what do you do? He said, I'm a social entrepreneur, and I have a platform that we go and nourish the world's most vulnerable children called Manna Relief. And President Fox said, well, who do you have feeding kids in Mexico? Sam said, we actually don't have a partner down here. President Fox said, do you think my wife and I would qualify? So that's where the relationship was born, and they've been together feeding children through Manna Relief in Centro Fox in Mexico for years. Back to this story, back to where we are today. What we've put together is a partnership with all these different people that you're going to hear us reference to say, what if we could just match consumers with kids who are dying of malnutrition? What if it was as simple as creating a product in the marketplace and applying it to the world of business through social entrepreneurship? And this isn't an old, antiquated idea. This is a very cutting edge, very current business model that you're watching right in front of us work. I think the best example that most people are familiar with is Tom Shoes. If you've ever been to a Nordstrom or ever been to a Starbucks or ever been anywhere in America, Tom Shoes is a company called, their tagline is 1 for 1. When you buy a pair of Tom Shoes, they match an identical pair of shoes to a child somewhere in need somewhere in the world. If you've not YouTube searched Tom Shoes or Blake Mikowski, get with the person that invited you to the webinar. They'll pop you a link to a video and watch what that company has done by simply being a for-profit business that operates with a heart, because every pair of shoes they sell, they give one away to a child. So think of a model like that, but instead of Nordstrom's doing all the selling, what EM Squared is going to do is give folks the ability to personally participate in the distribution of our Hope Bars. So there is an absolute library of content to read, both in periodicals like in Inc. Magazine or Forbes or the New York Times, or the Harvard Business Review, who wrote an article called Can Entrepreneurs Save the World? Or if you're a watcher like I am, I'm a very visual person, there's probably 10 or 15 TED Talks about this very topic. And that's probably, for me, one of the most important things and exciting things is we're doing something that's currently applicable in the marketplace. And it's simple. Social entrepreneurship is about saying, you know what, let's recognize a problem. What are some problems in the world, social problems? Clean water, kids with no shoes, vaccinations, I mean, of course, malnutrition. There's 50 of them. So we said, what's the biggest one? What's the number one killer of kids? What's the number one, and it's weird to say that just nonchalantly, but what's the number one thing that's absolutely doing the most harm? And it's malnutrition, by a landslide, by a whole bunch. So then how do you find a solution? The solution is social entrepreneurship. The solution is combining the heart of a nonprofit with the head and the technology, the mind, the entrepreneurship of a for-profit, and combining them into one concept. But the biggest missing link with most social entrepreneurship companies, and one of the things Rob's going to talk about in a minute, is how do you fit into the equation? How do I fit into the equation? How does a company tap into the passion of the people that would normally just be its customers? How do you turn your customers into partners? How do you turn them into evangelists for your brand? We believe part of it is through creating an experience that they can not just be a customer, but they can be a part of what we're doing, but then also to incentivize people to help. You know, reward people for their influence, reward people for their introductions to their friends and to the people that they know. I mean, the problem's not getting any better, it's actually getting worse. In certain countries in Africa, the number of child deaths because of malnutrition is actually going up in the last 20 years, not going down. So every 6 seconds, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another one. I mean, by the time we do this webinar, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids, just because they don't have anything to eat, are passing away. So our solution is to create a whole food bar. It's called a standardized whole food bar, the Hope Bar, to put it into the mouths of kids. So simply by being a customer of ours, you're feeding kids. Simply by being a conscious consumer, you're helping save the lives of kids. Now, we've got different ways that people can participate in our story and participate in our movement, but it's our belief that through the power of people and using technology, we could do something that's not been done before. Again, this is probably a 10-minute story. I'm going to tell it to you in 20 or 30 seconds. If you're a reader, if you're a researcher, and you want to know the backstory, write down or take a pen and just write down that guy's name, Muhammad Yunus. Tom Shue's entire company is built off of his principles. Everything Sam is doing and what Vicente Fox is doing is built off the principles of that guy on the screen in the top left, Muhammad Yunus. He was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for these concepts, for taking the idea of the front-end technology of a for-profit and combining it with the back-end heart and pulse of a nonprofit in social entrepreneurship. That's what he did. He did it with a partnership with Dannon Yogurt. And I guess I'm past 30 seconds already, but his whole purpose was to say, what if we could tap the connections and the influence of village moms through the countries that are around the rural areas of Bangladesh, because the yogurt wasn't selling on the shelves. What if we could create a yogurt cup and we could give village moms an entrepreneurial opportunity to go out and share those yogurt cups and sell them? I mean, it's almost like the origin of direct sales, and go from hut to hut, village to village, mom to mom. And over a period of years, they had a 50% market penetration. Families were living as opposed to dying because they were getting fed. Families were coming out of poverty because the village mom of the household had a business. She was out making a personal income, marketing and essentially selling yogurt cups through Muhammad Yunus's business model. So again, I promise I wish I could cover more of it, so just that'll have to be enough enough of what we cover there. But what we've said is, what if we could build a global model of quote-unquote village moms, influential people who care? What if we could, business people aren't enough, because generally speaking, when you get out of college, if you want to make money, you start a business. If you want to help people, you start a charity. Social entrepreneurship taps both parts and does them at the same time. We just want to use technology and gamification to say, we want to reward you to help champion the cause of this story. There's a few different ways people can participate, and they're on the screen. We'll cover these in a little bit more detail as we go. But again, just be patient with this if this is your first time hearing this. But a donor is, you can read the screen, a donor is somebody on a one-time basis makes a purchase of bars. Is a one-time donation, no ongoing costs. So a supporter, on the other hand, is somebody that says, hey, I want to spend $75 a month and I want to feed kids every single month. It says make a monthly pledge to purchase 1 or more boxes. A supporter might buy 5 boxes. They might want to support 5 children. So they'll have a drop-down on there that says how many children would you like to support. In smaller print below it, you could say during the pilot program, all purchased boxes will be given to children. After kickoff, you will have the option to keep your purchased box or give them both. because for whatever you buy, we're going to match it. That's a supporter. It's still somebody that's a customer of ours. Again, a conscious customer, somebody that cares about where they're purchasing. I mean, this is sort of off the record, although the webinar is still rolling. Why in the world would you buy a food bar if the only person that gets fed is you, when you could buy a food bar that's as tasty, in my opinion, tastier, more healthy, and you know as soon as you buy it, a kid in another part of the world is going to get fed too. That's why Tom's Shoes worked. People got a sense that they were doing something much greater than just buying a pair of shoes. Here, people know, hey, if I'm going to feed myself, why not feed somebody else at the same time? So our whole community, and Rob's going to dive into it in just a minute, is built upon supporters. And then I guess the next phase of what a supporter might be is somebody that says, you know what, I want to help champion the cause. I want to be a hero for hope. And instead of just being a customer, I want to go out and actually help build this thing. Instead of helping Rob feed 20 kids, I want to go help feed 20 of my own kids. You know, it's like when my wife and I went to Mexico and saw this, it wasn't good enough for me just to say, yeah, I'll buy some bars. The way we're wired is we want to bite off a bigger piece. We want to go, no pun intended, by the way, we want to go out and actually build something ourselves. You know, the reward part of it is incredible. The fact that you could be compensated to help end malnutrition is incredible to me. But what's more important is we feel like we can really do something that matters and build, you know, a tribe of people, a community of people whose efforts collectively are ending malnutrition. And that's what's probably one of the funnest things about it, the most fun things about it, is we're not doing it alone. Every single person listening to this, and this is a relatively intimate audience, this is just a handful of our friends and a handful of their friends. And as we get nearer to our pilot program on Monday, which is just 3, 4, 5 days away, you'll really be able to see quite a bit of this story come alive. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Central Fox organization and President Fox, who's on the screen, that put the whole model together. It was their sort of foresight to say, you know what, everything we've ever done in our lives is coming together right now to create a community and a model that gives ordinary people like anybody on here, me, you, anybody else, a chance to start their own movement inside the M Squared platform or inside the M Squared project. And we've got a handful of different phases that we're walking through, but the number one thing that we want to do is kick off our pilot program Monday, and over the summer months into September or October, just go completely crazy and feed a massive amount of kids. That's kind of how I talk, so hopefully it's okay for you. But we want to go out and feed just a massive amount of kids. I mean, it's going to be tough as an individual to go feed 250,000 kids, but I'm sure Blake Mikowski thought it was tough to put shoes on 10 million kids. He hasn't bought more than a handful of pairs. But collectively, as an individual, imagine if you can help get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids fed. And when you're eating a Hope Bar, your mom says, "What's a Hope Bar?" And then you show her the wrapper and it says, "Buy one, feed two." She says, "What's that?" And then you introduce her to the story, and your mom now wants to support a kid, or your neighbor, or a relationship with somebody at work. Imagine what that could turn into over a period of time where everybody is sharing a simple story about ending malnutrition by being a consumer of the Hope Bar through the M Squared project. So I want to do a couple of things. One, that's the basic story. It took 20 minutes to get through. Hopefully actually 18 because I started a little bit late. Hopefully that part of it makes sense. And we have a lot more to share. There's a lot of things that you can dive into to get more educated on social entrepreneurship. But I mean, at the end of the day, I've always wanted to do something that matters. I've always wanted to do something that was bigger than just my wife and I. And you know, what I want to do is change gears just a little bit. And I've got a couple things I want to show, and I also want you to hear from Rob. Rob DeBoer's calling him from South Carolina. At least I think that's where you're at right now. And do 2 things. Rob, share your experience in Mexico, because a big part of what we want to create is a culture. Sorry to continue to reference Tom's Shoes, but the thing I got most excited about when I went to Mexico with my wife 2 months ago is when we walked into the very first orphanage. I've never been to one before. I had an idea that we would go in there and change these kids' lives. Little did we know they would change ours. But I got most excited about what we were doing because I knew we could build an environment where people could go and give. People could go get on their hands and knees and help people. And you know, we just 2 weeks ago, we took about 30 people to Mexico. One of the gentlemen that was with us is a guy named Rob DeBoer. You're going to hear from him right now. Rob, just share your experience in Mexico, how that influenced you and touched you. I know you've got a family of your own, so being down there with these kids who literally do not have parents, and you know, just kind of share your experience with that, and then we'll transition a little bit into how you're sharing the story with people, how you would approach it, and then we can do a little bit of rewards too. But while he does that, I'm going to show you some images of our experience while we were there. Hey, Rob,
Thank you so much, Michael. Am I coming through okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, gosh, where to start? Where to start? First of all, I think there's a lot of us on here that have children of our own, or we have nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters. And I'll tell you, you don't realize what you have until you realize what others don't have. And that was the experience I had when I went down to Mexico. To hear the caregivers in these orphanages, think about this for a minute. These children have no parents. What if we could make a difference in their life? Not just nutritionally, but emotionally. Here's what's happened. Here's what the caregivers are saying. Now that these children are getting the nutrition they need, they're actually allowing the caregivers to hug them. I almost get choked up because if you think about that for a minute, because we're feeding these children the nourishment that they need, there's a big difference between starvation and malnutrition. So many other companies and organizations address feeding the children. Matter of fact, if you go Google it, there will be 175 million pages come up if you Google feeding children. The problem is most of those deal with treating starvation. Starvation doesn't give the children what they need to grow, to excel, to learn, to reach their potential. So when we are in these orphanages and we hear the caregivers, the nuns, the people that are taking care of these children because otherwise they would be on the streets, to hear them say they're finally smiling, they're letting us hug them, they're finally sharing with one another and interacting with each other. Guys, that's where this became so real for me. So I come back and I say, wow, imagine a model that is sustained giving. See, that's the problem with the charities, is when the economy goes down, so does giving. When the economy's up, so is giving. What if you could create a model where these orphanages could count on the giving that we provide? They could count on a regular flow of the nutrition these children need. That's exactly what we experienced down in Mexico. And make no mistake, this is just not going to be limited to Mexico. This will impact children around the world. So to be a part of this in the pilot program stage is very special. If you get an opportunity to travel to Mexico to see these children that are now letting us hug them, play with them, interact with them, we went to the dollar store and we brought little trinkets and toys, and it was just almost heartbreaking to see how much that meant. And then you come home and here's our own children that really don't know how special they have it. So Michael, people ask all the time, how do I go share this with people? And guys, that's what's so powerful here. People can hear it in my voice 100%. I kid people all the time when someone says, well, what do you do for a living? I feed starving children in orphanages around the world. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, but that's truly my business. So I set up really kind of a little starter sheet, and this will evolve over the course of time, but I call it Team for 20. What if you could go create a team that was responsible for feeding 20 children? Think about that just for a moment. I have 3 kids of my own. They're fed every single day. You know, they throw away more food than these children get per day, sometimes per week. So again, what if I could be responsible for feeding 20 children, literally allowing 20 children to get the nutrition they need, that it allows them to get a hug, that it allows them to smile. So how do you do that? Well, we've created an action plan, and Michael will talk about it in the reward system. But when people ask, so Rob, what did you do? I tell them, look, it's a real simple 3-step process. Let's give you a starting line. What I think, create a list of everyone you know that has children, that has kids. Why? Because this will hit home with them. Add to that list everyone you know that coaches, teaches, trains, loves on kids. Whatever the case may be, this is my starting line. This is who I'm going to call. This is who I'm going to get passionate with. And then I tell people, okay, we've got the starting line. What's step 2? How do we execute and go reach these people? Think about this for a minute. Compared to other opportunities, compared to other business models, direct sales, multi-level, network marketing models, that phone gets real heavy. But I can tell you, we can't pick up the phone fast enough. And it's real simple. Hey, Michael, I've just committed to a social giving cause called the EM Squared Project. I'm super excited about it. It really stands for eradicating malnutrition in children around the world by squaring the efforts of others. Mike, I personally committed to feeding 20 children each month. I want to send you a short video. I think it'll tug at your heartstrings the way it did mine. And then I just want to see if you'd be willing to help support me in feeding these 20 children. There's really no time commitment. If you're already participating in social giving, this is so different and so rewarding. So Mike, all I'm asking is, when can you get in front of your computer or watch a video on your phone? I want to send you a very short summary of what we're doing. I'll tell you guys, that's not a hard conversation. We're putting this in a document where you could literally read off it, but I'll tell you, you're going to get so passionate about what we're doing and what this stands for, that will just flow out of your mouth and you won't need a script. You will just be speaking on your belief and the reward of what this really means. And then lastly, you're going to follow up. You've really done what you set out to do. You're simply calling people that have children, that care about children, teach, coach, train, whatever it is. You've sent them the video, and you're simply going to follow up. You may even be on the phone while they're watching that video, and you're just going to say, come do this with me. Come feed a child. At the very least, support one. During our pilot program, you're going to be feeding 2, and I'm just telling you, Michael, there's not a better feeling in the world when I lay my head on the pillow at night, when I give my kids a hug and tuck them in. There's just not a better feeling in the world knowing that now there's other children that are letting these caregivers tuck them in when ordinarily they would never do that. And it's all a result of what we're doing with this Team for 20. So Michael, thanks so much for having me on. I do want to make one note, because I am kind of that nutrition geek. I'm the guy that knows enough to be dangerous, and I've just been nutritionally sound pretty much my entire life. It's important to note that everything's moving to organic, pure, all natural. Those aren't buzzwords that are trendy. They're here to stay. So when you hear gluten-free, non-GMO, I laugh all the time. People don't even know what GMO stands for, but they know it's good. Genetically modified organisms, meaning there's nothing in this bar that has been modified. There's no soy, there's no dairy, no added vitamins, synthetic vitamins, minerals, preservatives, no added flavors or sweeteners. These are all natural bars. So I thought, well, if it tastes good and it's reasonably priced, and I can buy one and feed a child, I would never buy a bar from Whole Foods ever again. So I go into Whole Foods, I go into the Golden Carrot, I go into Earth Fare, the health food stores around Columbia, South Carolina, and I start looking at the nutritional facts of these other bars, which, by the way, costs more than $2.50, and it doesn't feed a child. We're putting together a document that shows these comparisons, and it reiterates even more how special former President Fox, Sam Castor, Brian Underwood, and so many others really have taken time to put this together to give us a product that's competitively priced in the marketplace, competitively nutritionally sound with other whole food natural bars, both in taste, price point, and nutritional foundation. And our bar feeds a child. So Michael, I just can't get more passionate than what I've shared tonight. I hope people can hear it in my voice. I encourage people, listen to what Michael has to say. It's very simple, but at the end of the day, it's about one thing: feeding a child. So Michael, I'll throw it back to you.
Rob, I appreciate everything that you just dove into. I'm going to scroll up and look for another screen. I think it's funny, I got a couple different text messages. When are you going back to Mexico again? I will just say one of our goals is to go every single month and give people that are supporters and ambassadors of ours the chance to go with us. And until you've done it, it's something that, like Rob said, I can't take these kids' faces, smiles out of my face. Like, they're burnt into my head. I can't get rid of them. Not that I'm trying to, but once you've done it, you come home and sort of just look around at the way we all live and just shake your head and go, this is insane. Uh, but I think that's an incredible experience. So, I mean, could you imagine building a business of giving people around the world that experience of being humble, of service, of giving? I mean, I do want to dive into a little bit because a couple of the questions we got were built around the rewards. Like, how am I rewarded? How am I compensated? How is, what does that process look like? Another question that came through is, when does a pilot program start? How do I participate? What does it cost? How do I learn more? So let me just crush through a few things. If you have any other thoughts or questions, throw them in as a chat, and I'm going to try to get off in like 5, 6, 7 minutes. Okay? That's my goal. So Dave Lundgren says he takes the over. That's what he texted me. But one of the things Rob said is, at the end of the day, it's just about introducing a story to people that we've come to know. That's all it is. It's not selling. You're not arm twisting anybody. I don't think Girl Scouts have had to sell you cookies. They pretty much sell themselves for 2 reasons. They taste great, although they're terrible for you. But usually people participate in the Girl Scout quote-unquote fundraiser because it's a good cause, because you're supporting the child. You're supporting the person that's selling you the bars or the cookies, if you will. There's also a reason you can't find Girl Scouts for sale in a store, and they've allowed individual kids to go around and do the marketing for you. Think of the parallel between their business model and the business model of the village moms in Bangladesh. Think of the parallel there. And one of the neat things about what we have a chance to do is you can simply introduce a story to somebody. Once we go live Monday with our pilot program, anybody that's a part of what we're doing as an ambassador, you'll have your own website with us. You'll have a series of videos, 1, 2, and 3, that'll explain the entire story for you in detail. You'll never have to do what you're hearing Rob and I do now. And in fact, if you can introduce somebody to a story when they say, what are you up to? What's new? What's happened? What's going on? And you say, oh my gosh, a friend of mine introduced me to a project called the EM Squared Project. We're real excited about it. It's really special. We're helping feed children around the world by simply participating in the Hope Bar. Somebody goes, what's that? And you go, give me your number, I'll text you. You log into your dashboard as an ambassador in EM Squared. You type in the person's number, you hit send. It text messages them a link that says, Joe Schmo wants to share the EM Squared Project with you to help end malnutrition. Watch this. They watch a video. It explains the entire story to them in much simpler English and in about 4 minutes than what Rob and I did. If they like it, they watch the second video. And it just peels the onion a little bit further. The third video they watch says, now that you're excited about helping end malnutrition with the EM Squared Project, let's talk to you about what your options are. Regardless of how you take action, take some sort of action. Once I've been made aware of the problem, but then also been made aware of the solution, now it's almost like I have a responsibility to take an action. And it can be a one-time purchase as a donor. It could be an ongoing monthly purchase as a supporter, which again is $75 a month, $150, $300, $450. You get the point. $75 a month per box as a supporter, or somebody could become an ambassador. An ambassador is somebody like myself, like Rob, like Nino Galloway, like Dave Lundgren, like a lot of the folks on the webinar, Greg Akers, I couldn't list them all, Mike Beal, Will Cormody, a lot of the folks that are helping us champion the cause that say, you know what, it's not good enough for me just to be able to support a couple of kids. I know too many people, and I'm too much of an entrepreneur to sit on the sidelines. I want to help more. What can I do to help more? So instead of just being a customer or a supporter and saying, you know what, I'll buy some bars, yeah, I'll feed some kids, it's somebody that's almost like wanting to pull their own little red wagon. They want to do a couple of things. They want to be able to track your influence around the world, which remember we talked about gamification and the power of people. All that means is you're sharing the story of the EM Squared Project with other people that you know or come to know. It's as simple as sharing a video with them, like Rob said. Some language along the lines of Tessa and I, and that's my wife's name, Tessa. Tessa and I we have a goal to feed 20 kids this month. I'd love to share a video with you to see if you can help us hit our goal. Whatever it might be, it's just a matter of introducing it to people. So an ambassador is still also spending $75 a month because they're also a supporter. But one other thing that an ambassador does is an annual $49, you can read it on the screen, an annual, let's see, which sentence is it in? An annual, an annual fee to be in our business, to be a social entrepreneur. At the end of the day, it's you're either a customer of Tom's or you are Tom's. Here, you're either a supporter of the EM Squared Project or you're a part of the EM Squared Project. And we're okay with whatever anybody does, because no matter what they do, they're feeding a child. Just depends on how many kids they want to feed. How many kids do you want to affect? 1, 10, 1,000? I mean, could you imagine just by simply sharing through Facebook, through text, through email, through Pinterest, through regular conversation, a simple story of, hey, I'm helping 20 kids. Could you help me too? Imagine what that could grow to if our technology tracked all of it. So the basics of our reward plan are very simple. Look, you're going to be compensated every single time a child is fed. We don't pay commissions or rewards on the consumption of our product. We don't pay people to recruit other people. The only thing that our model is built to do is reward what we call hearts. A heart is then transferred into or cashed out into cash. A heart is generated only when a child is fed. It's the only measuring stick of our entire business. The only success of our business measurement, or in other words, the only thing that you can measure, the only value is whether you're feeding kids or not. Is your team, is your tribe, is the community that you've helped bring to the story feeding and nourishing kids? If it is, there's rewards on it. Again, I'm being very general, but that's on purpose, because let's keep the main thing the main thing. Instead of spending the next 2 days trying to dissect how much money you'll make, spend the next 2 days dissecting malnutrition. Spend the next 2 days dissecting social entrepreneurship stories. Spend the next 2 days getting very rooted and connected to the purpose and the mission and the cause of what we're doing. Everything else will fall into place. And that's my opinion. That's what I'm doing. But just as a reiteration, I will tell you, donors, one-time purchase of whatever they want to buy. Box, 4 boxes, 20 boxes, whatever it is. Maybe a company will buy $1,000 worth of boxes, whatever that might be. A supporter, monthly commitment, $75 or more, based on how many kids that they want to support. An ambassador, $49 annual technology fee that puts them in our business. You'll get your own replicated website. All the tracking of anything that takes place is all done for you. And then an ambassador also is going to spend $75 a month to support kids. In addition to that, and I'll touch on it just briefly, and you'll have to connect back up with the person that invited you to learn more, we have only available at the purchase, at your original purchase, a hero package. A hero package is 5 boxes of Hope Bars, and then we match 5 boxes of Hope Bars. So it ends up being a total of 10 boxes. Again, just to say it one more time slower, if somebody comes in and says, you know what, I want to be an ambassador, I want to support kids, and I also want to purchase the hero package, what does it cost? What do I get? It's $499 total, which again includes your $49 website fee, your $75 per month starting in the first month, supporter fee, which is 2 boxes, and your hero package, which essentially is 10 boxes, because you get 5 and we match 5. During our pilot program, and I almost forgot to say this, during our pilot program, the purpose of this is not so you get a bunch of boxes of bars, it's so we collectively can go feed a bunch of kids. So during the pilot program, of the 12 boxes that you're getting as an ambassador who buys the hero package, you're going to give 11 to kids, and you have the option to keep 1 box. So just by becoming an ambassador and making a decision to be a hero for Hope, you're feeding 11 kids a meal a day for an entire month, and you get 1 box. To me, the box is a demo. The box is to share with your friends so they understand the story of what we're doing, and it gives you the ability to taste them. So that's just during our pilot program through the summer months and into the fall, so we can get our legs underneath of us, A, and B, so we can feed as many kids as humanly possible, and I guess C, so we can help spread the story of giving, because that's what the whole model is built on. Social entrepreneurship is built around giving, and you'd be blown away by how much of the things going on in our life, once you give, they go away. Once you invest time and effort in serving other people, a lot of the stuff that we go through in our own lives either becomes not that big of an issue or it just goes away. So I'm sure there's additional questions on things. Touch base with the person that invited you to this. Again, we don't go live in our pilot program until Monday. So what I would challenge you to do over the course of the weekend is a couple things. Besides getting back with the person that told you about tonight's webinar, learn stuff. I mean, you can go to this website, www.heroforhope.com. Spell out the word for, H-E-R-O-F-O-R, heroforhope.com. That's just a little splash page for corporate. No one has access to your information. It just serves as 2 things. The first thing is you can watch a little video that we've put together that's going to give you a little bit of an idea of how our marketing and our messages and our videos are going to feel. And 2, you could put in your name and email address if you want to know more about what we're doing. We have a series of emails that would deliver videos to you about Tom's Shoes, about Muhammad Yunus, about all kinds of different really cool stuff. But take the weekend to learn more. Take the weekend to say, you know what, how do I fit into this? What can I do? And then as we go live on Monday, just figure out how much of an impact you want to make in the lives of children. Like Rob said, it's just an introduction. It's nothing more than making an introduction. And if anybody ever says no to you, it's because we introduced it to them wrong. This isn't pitching people a business or trying to get people to quit their jobs. It's simply an introduction to an idea to help end malnutrition and feed kids. So any additional questions, thoughts, comments, anything at all, hit the person that invited you to this. We can jump back on and do some additional calls. We will be doing webinars just like this one throughout the weekend. Just stay plugged in and let us know if there's anything else we can help you with. And Dave, yes, you should have taken the over because that took me 10 minutes instead of 7. So have an awesome night. We're stoked that you could spend some time with us. Happy Thursday to you guys. Thank you, Rob, for being on with us. Have a good night. We're going to end now. Bye-bye.